Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to completely reframe how we think about our daily habits and distractions. Ever find yourself doom scrolling at 2 a.m. or maybe grabbing that third cup of coffee on pure autopilot? I know I have. But what if those seemingly harmless routines are actually covering up something way deeper? Today, we're going to take a really close look at the invisible forces that are actively driving our behavior.
I want to hold up a mirror right out of the gate here. Ask yourself, can you completely stop using your phone or eating sugar or drinking coffee for just a few weeks? Seriously, think about it. If your gut reaction to that is no way, you might actually be caught in a biological trap without even realizing it. We all love to tell ourselves that we're totally in control, that we can quit our little habits anytime we want. But the reality is usually quite different when we actually try to stop.
To understand why, we need to completely shatter the stereotype of the street-level drug addict. Because when you look at the clinical definition of addiction from the source material, which is continued and compulsive overconsumption that you indulge in despite negative consequences, it applies perfectly to our everyday behaviors. Browsing the internet, shopping, eating fast food, these are incredibly common things. But when we compulsively consume them and literally can't stop doing them even when they ruin our focus or our relationships, we've crossed a major line. We are all in some form everyday addicts.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the why behind all this. We tend to think we do things just because they feel good, right? That's the pleasure-seeking side. We want excitement, discovering the new, so we endlessly scroll social media. But honestly, more often than not, the real culprit is pain avoidance. We're simply trying to escape stress or loneliness or boredom through things like endless Netflix binges. We're using these highly dopaminergic behaviors as band-aids for our uncomfortable feelings.
To get to the bottom of why we can't just flip a switch and stop using these habits to cope, we look to an incredible insight from Stanford addiction expert Dr. Anna Lembke. She points out a fundamental, absolutely crucial piece of human biology. Pain and pleasure are actually processed in the exact same region of the brain, and they work together like a balance. Basically, your brain operates this delicate internal scale that governs how you feel every single minute of the day.
Imagine a literal seesaw balancing right there inside your head. Every time you indulge in a highly exciting artificial high, a self-regulating mechanism gets triggered that forces an equal low. So, you take an action that involves high dopamine, and boom, the scale tips rapidly toward pleasure. But your brain absolutely hates being out of balance, so it immediately overcompensates, tipping the scale equally toward pain. That intense physical feeling of unease and craving you get when you finally put your phone down, that is literally your brain's seesaw tilting toward pain.
So, when you inevitably try to push that seesaw back to pleasure, you run into two massive biological enemies. First up is diminishing marginal utility. Think of it this way. The first slice of pizza is amazing, right? But the sixth slice? It's just meh. You get less pleasure from the exact same action over time. The second enemy is tolerance. Your brain's baseline actually adjusts, meaning you require more and more extreme versions of the behavior just to feel that exact same initial thrill.
And this is exactly how a vicious cycle gets built. Eventually, you aren't using your phone or eating junk food for pleasure anymore, you're literally just using it to avoid feeling terrible. Your initial dopamine spike diminishes over time until eventually you plunge completely below your baseline into a state of withdrawal. What used to make you feel incredible is now just required to feel normal.
So how do we fix it? Well, breaking this deep biological cycle isn't going to happen by accident. The source material offers a pretty hard pill to swallow, an extended dopamine fast, where you completely abstain from your drug of choice for 30 days, 1 full month. Your addicted brain is going to instantly reject this idea for sure, but it is the scientifically backed way to reset your baseline.
Now, listen, relying purely on willpower for 30 days, that is a total recipe for failure. To actually survive those 4 weeks, the source lays out this highly structured 4-step action plan. It takes way more than just saying, I won't do it. You need a bulletproof strategy. So let's break down exactly how you execute each of these steps to guarantee your success.
All right, step 1, identify your triggers. You must self-analyze your cravings. You literally have to become an investigator of your own mind here. When the craving hits, ask yourself, how did I feel? What was I thinking about? Who was I with? What time was it? If you don't map out your triggers, you can't prepare for them. You'll just remain a complete slave to patterns, like craving a video game every single day at exactly 5 p.m. You have to know your enemy.
Moving on to step 2, which is all about defense. Optimize your environment. Because even if you remove triggers, cravings are still going to hit.
Which is why the source highlights using tools like the Focus Me app to forcefully block your own access to distracting websites. You have to create an impenetrable barrier between you and your craving. If your drug of choice is easily accessible right there in your pocket or on your desk, your willpower will eventually break. By using software or physical barriers to make the habit impossible to access, you create instant and forced discipline.
Step 3 is finding an alternative behavior. You've got to fill the void your addiction left behind, but you need to be incredibly careful not to replace one highly dopaminergic habit with another. If you just flat out stop indulging, you'll feel this huge empty void. You need to bridge that gap with something moderately demanding and non-destructive. Don't quit endless social media scrolling just to take up chain smoking. Find a healthy, productive substitute to fall back on when those urges hit.
And then we have step 4, which is brilliant because it actually utilizes the reverse of the brain seesaw. Do something difficult. Deliberately engaging in painful, difficult things, like a really heavy workout, actually rewards you with a lasting sense of pleasure and accomplishment. Indulging gives you a flash of instant pleasure, sure, but it leads to long-term pain and emptiness. But if you embrace a short-term struggle, the brain seesaw tips the other way, rewarding you with deep, long-lasting pride. Do something difficult every single day.
Okay, so you have the protocol, but you might be wondering, why does a month of abstaining actually work? Like, what is physically happening inside our heads during this month that makes this entire process so remarkably effective?
The magic word here is neuroplasticity. It's the brain's incredible ability to adapt. By abstaining, you literally stop reinforcing the neural synapses that drive your bad habits, and they literally begin to break apart. Every single time you give in to a craving, you strengthen the wiring for that bad habit. You make it more efficient. But when you stop, the brain adapts, the connections weaken. You are physically rewiring the structure of your mind.
To really visualize this, the explainer uses this amazing analogy of a snowy hill. Imagine you're sledding down a fresh hill of snow. The more you slide down the exact same path, the deeper the tracks become. Once you hit that groove, man, you are locked in. It's so hard to escape. This is exactly why saying, just one more video, never, ever works for an addict. One small indulgence pulls you right back into the deep neural tracks you've carved over years.
But here is the beautiful part. As those tracks fade during your month off, something incredible happens. Your pain-pleasure balance resets. Things that maybe felt totally boring before, like cooking and eating a homemade meal, just watching a sunset, or going for a hike in the woods, they suddenly provide this amazing rush of authentic, healthy joy, because your baseline is finally returned to normal. So, what happens when the month is actually over? Well, for some really deep tracks, yeah, complete abstinence is the only way forever. But for a lot of everyday habits, you absolutely can reintroduce them using strict moderation. It just requires setting very strict time barriers and taking routine 1 to 2 week fasting breaks just to keep the brain's balance in check so you never fall back into those deep, compulsive tracks.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important point. Falling into these habits? It is not a moral failing in our modern world. The food industry and tech giants spend literal billions of dollars carving those deep tracks into your brain to keep you hooked. But armed with this explainer, you now have the exact blueprint to take your control back. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Are you building a life by design, or are you just endlessly sliding down tracks built by someone else?